Hey everybody, welcome back to another evening with Goody and Johnny Mo with the movies. We're doing episode 40 tonight. We're hitting a nice little milestone
Yep.
after a year and 3 quarters.
It's, I would say, it's well over a year.
Right. Yeah.
Almost, oh my God, closing on 2 years.
Oh, February will be 2 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we
we're
got to
hitting
get
40.
to at least 50 before we hit our 2 year mark.
Okay, so you guys heard it here first. We got a few more months to crack 10 more episodes.
Yep.
Tonight we are going to be bringing you a little Halloween action. We're a little late on this one. However, we did think it was still worthy to do. We are going to be taking a look at both the 1978 Halloween and the 2018 Halloween. Same film title, but 40 years apart.
Yep.
Before we do that, we are going to do our traditional drink of the night. We hope you guys are having a drink with us.
Yes.
So please join us. Johnny Mo, you go first.
Okay, so I am drinking a beer that I had never heard of before prior to like a week ago. I saw it in the store. It's called Perlenbacher. It's a German beer, and I don't know how long it's been around because usually these German beers say, established 1473 and they've been making it for 600 years.
Right.
But this has no year on it, so I don't know if it's brand new or been around forever. But it's a lager. It says Imperial on it. It's a big bottle. It's a pint.
It's
So
7.9%. That's pretty strong.
yeah, it's strong too, and it's good. I bought two of these. This is the second one I'm drinking. I've been saving this one for here, and it's in this nice big glass.
For me, I got actually something special. It was just recently my birthday. My wife got me a quarterly beer club. 12 beers from around the country come in, all assorted beers, and this one that I'm drinking tonight is the Outlaw Lager. This is from the Sierra Blanca Brewing Company. That's in New Mexico.
New Mexico.
So a little shout out to these guys. We're gonna give this a try for the first time. So yeah,
It's got a nice
excited.
dark. It's got a
Yeah,
nice
little
dark color to it.
Yeah, I
So
like
It's
that.
got more color than mine.
Yeah,
for
oh,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, but mine's bigger though.
It is. It is. That's all right. You're allowed to have that for tonight.
So, because this is a Halloween thing, I'm actually
Yeah.
wearing a Halloween shirt. It's a Salem, Massachusetts shirt, and you can't see the back, but the back says drinking, pillaging, flogging, wenching. These are a few of my favorite things. So
That sounds about right for you.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I think this shirt would be very inappropriate. I'm sure I got them in the wrong order, but they're all on.
So with that, guys, we're just going to say cheers. Thank you guys so much for joining us as always. We hope you continue to stay with us as we continue this journey.
Now, someone might notice at some point during this film that you might think that our angles are a little off, and we're not sure. We tried to fix it, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to take that as like a little. If it is the case, it's a little homage to German expressionistic horror films that use everything slightly off angle. So we're going to go with that. We did it on
Yeah,
purpose.
we can go with that,
Just
sure.
for that.
That sounds good. Yeah.
This is pretty tasty.
Well, you got a lot to drink there. So
7.9%. What's normal beer?
usually around like 5.
5? Oh,
Between like 4.5%, 5%. I mean, a lot of the microbrews are, the typical beers are around there.
okay. So this is going to be a fun episode because I don't know that we've actually talked about two movies together, kind of side by side, to kind
Yeah,
of go back and
comparing them.
forth.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, so
you start. I don't even know where to start with this because we're not reviewing both films per se.
it's not really going to be so much a
kinda-
review. It's going to be like
a
sort
little bit of a comparison, talk a little bit about this, a little bit about that. But
Yeah.
between these two films, there's so much to talk about, especially in connection with each other.
We think with the 1978 original Halloween really kicked off something special, and it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, horror film of all time. And I know for you, it's one of your favorites.
It's absolutely one of my favorite. It's definitely in my top 10. It's probably in my top 5 favorite horror films. And favoritism aside, Halloween is definitely one of the greatest, most influential horror films of all time. It's definitely one of the films from the 70s that really set the tone for later films. It definitely like built off what Star Wars started. In terms of a movie base, in terms of your the viewer base. Targeting a younger crowd, just across the board pleasing, pleasing the audience. It it is definitely I would say the most influential horror film of the '70s, even more so than say The Exorcist or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I'll be honest with you, I think those are better films, but those films didn't start an entire genre. I mean, granted, maybe The Exorcist kind of, there were possession films made after that, but it didn't like take over the industry. Things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even like 1968 Night of the Living Dead. You can say Night of the Living Dead was a trailblazer, but at the end of the day, a gazillion zombie movies didn't come out after Night of the Living Dead. In fact, most of the zombie movies came out after 1978, after Dawn of the Dead. So I mean, there are just certain these later '70s horror films, in a post Star Wars climate, they really started the whole. Halloween really started the slasher genre, and even though Halloween has its origins in probably in Black Christmas from 1974, which in my opinion is as good a movie or better. Black Christmas didn't start the slasher genre. Black Christmas inspired Halloween. The success of Halloween, where everybody said, "Oh my God!"
Right.
That because I can tell you right now, I remember when Halloween came out in '78. I was too young to see it, but that movie was extremely popular, and it was. I don't want to say it was controversial at the time, but it scared the crap out of anybody that went to see that movie. It scared the hell out of them. It was a scary movie, and it was known to be scary. And I'm sure a lot of people went there with their girlfriends, so they could hold on to each other, But it's a really well-made film, and it is one of the scariest movies of all time.
And it's one of the highest profitable films.
Oh, yeah.
If not the most.
It's one of the most. It's not. I don't think it's the most. I think there's a couple movies that beat it only because I think Blair Witch Project is at the very tippy top because it was made on almost nothing and made millions in present day. But yeah, no,
but the
Halloween
budget was nothing.
It was very low, but it was probably like 70,000 at the time, which is very low.
I thought it was like 130,000. But it was but still for a movie at that time.
Because it was John Carpenter was not an established name in 1977 and 1978. The movies he had made before that were I think far and few in between, even though they were good. Assault on Precinct 13 was good,
right?
But like that didn't shatter,
no.
Everything. So I mean,
but
Carpenter got on the
noticed.
map
Yeah.
with Halloween, and it made so much money.
It had legs. Like the movie was out for a very long time.
Oh yeah. It made a ton of money, and based on the amount of money spent to make that movie, the profitability in those scenarios. Two movies could both make $1 million in profits, but if one movie costs $5 to make and the other movie costs $750,000 to make, like the movie that made $5 blows the profitability numbers out of the water, and that's what happened with Halloween. It was made at a very low budget, and it was huge, and it's easily, I think, in profitability wise in the top 10 films of all time in terms of percentage.
Yep.
In terms of percentages.
And this movie spawned off a ton of sequels. If I'm not mistaken, in the original run of itself, you had 5, 6 was The Curse of Michael Myers, and then after that was H2O. Or was there another film in between?
Oh my God! You know what? There's
because there were quite a few.
There's a bunch of
the
them,
original,
and I think I've seen most of them. I just forget them because at the end of the day, almost all of them are forgettable. But just keep in mind, Halloween didn't just spawn all these sequels; it spawned almost the entire slasher genre. I think movies like Friday the 13th,
Nightmare on Elm Street,
and Nightmare on Elm Street. These movies have their foundation in Halloween, in terms of trying now granted those movies were also really good and spawned their own franchises and that,
right?
But it all comes down to Halloween, because prior to Halloween people weren't making movies like the horror movies that came out afterwards. They actually a lot of movies came out in the wake of Halloween, a lot of them sucked.
Right.
A lot of them
Some
you've never even heard of.
Well, yeah, like we're not even talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street to the Friday the 13th
Yeah.
that actually succeeded.
Right.
There's these all the other ones that failed
Right,
miserably.
and it's all these people just trying to cash in on
Yeah.
what John Carpenter did, just without the finesse and the artistry, or and we can talk about how good the movie is, but in terms of he had everything. He had the acting, he had the story,
The
he had
music.
the editing, the music.
The music
I
was
mean,
great.
everything about
you're
this
talking
movie.
top notch. That he even
Yeah.
helped to compose that score.
Yeah, I mean,
come up
Halloween
with that
is a
iconic
really
theme.
is a really good movie, and it just it's like 70s. It's basically 70s horror, pre-Halloween and post-Halloween. Halloween is the dividing mark, and that's it
I mean, it still
changed
holds up.
changed the industry in terms of the horror genre,
It's one of those films that to me still hold up to this day. Like you could
Yeah.
go back and watch that film now,
and it's a good movie.
And it's still, I will watch this film. We typically try to watch this film every October, right? Like we
Yes.
try to watch this film,
Yeah.
and usually it's on Halloween night most years. And it's just to me, I could always go back to this film. I still enjoy it. For people that look to get in, my younger nieces and nephews are starting to watch scary films because they're starting to get get age appropriate, and they're like, what do you got to watch? And you're like, you got to watch Halloween. You got to watch the first one.
And I think later generations lose a sense of history because they watch all these movies and they think they were all made on the same day, and it's like no,
Right.
you got to look at these things from a historical perspective. Prior to Halloween, nobody had made a movie. I think that supercharged and polished in terms of a horror film. Even Black Christmas is in that same category, even though that's technically probably is a slasher film. But prior to Halloween, and most horror films were pretty serious. They were maybe even geared towards an adult, more of an adult mindset. And they were all different. Except for they were, in any scenario, there's always a bunch of low budget copies. Incidentally,
Well, there's a lot of the sequels.
yeah,
I mean,
well,
a lot of these sequels.
the
for
guy
this.
who directed Black Christmas, did a zombie movie in the early 70s that nobody's ever heard of called Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. And it's a completely low budget zombie movie, but it's actually kind of fun. And he made it purposely to try and cash in, duplicate the success of Black Christmas. Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, no, let me do that. Okay.
And it's that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm saying, these earlier movies were great, but they were isolated gems.
Yeah.
Nobody in the industry high up tried to replicate
Right.
any of these.
Try to
things.
get strike lightning in a bottle twice. It's
Right, but once
can't
Star
go.
Wars did that, of course, with the entire movie industry, then you had a couple of these other scenarios where Halloween. Halloween came out, and all of a sudden, boom, they're like, okay, that's the model for the modern day
Right,
horror
for
film
what we want.
That's going to make a lot of money. So let's just try and do that.
and not spend a lot to make it.
yeah.
I mean, obviously
And-
that's the goal: is make as much money as you possibly can. And
Right.
some of these slasher films didn't have to rely so much on special effects. I mean, look, Halloween's a great example of this. There are not a ton of special effects in this film.
no, they're not.
Right?
No.
I
That's
can't,
why the budget is so low.
Right, and they can get away with that. I mean, for the fact that these guys had only a couple of a couple of the masks, which were William Shatner masks. A little
Yep.
trivia for people that didn't know that it's a William Shatner. The prop guys basically went to a Halloween store, grabbed a bunch of different masks, and showed them to John Carpenter, and then the prop guy basically took the William Shatner mask. He
Now,
painted it.
William Shatner or Captain Kirk, or is that the synonymous?
I think it was a Captain Kirk mask, but obviously it's based on William Shatner.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically painted it. I think even they stripped down the eyebrows and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
They took a lot of that stuff off. But it's amazing that that's what they came up with. And that
Yeah.
mask, there's not. And I'm sorry, all the Halloween films after the first one did a terrible job recreating that mask. If
Except
you
for
look-
Halloween 3, which doesn't appear at all.
Halloween 3 doesn't have anything. Well, because originally the Halloween series was not going to feature Michael Myers in every one. It was going to feature a different, something else happening
Okay,
on Halloween.
Gotcha.
But because Halloween 3, I don't think did financially nearly as good as Halloween 1 or 2,
Yeah.
they were like, let's bring back Michael Myers.
Right.
And that's why number 4 is labeled The Return of Michael Myers.
You know, and not for nothing. I'll be honest with you. I think the only Halloween movie that I find watchable after Halloween 1, oddly enough, is Halloween 3.
See, I like 2. I think 2's a decent film.
I hate 2. I
You
think
hate 2?
Halloween 2 sucks. Like to me, it's almost unwatchable. It's so bad.
2 adds to
It's such a disappointment after Halloween 1.
It's definitely a disappointment for sure. I will give you that. But I do enjoy the lore that they finally go into. And
Was
you
it
get,
directed by Carpenter?
He didn't direct it.
I don't
but
think he did.
No, he didn't direct it, but he was one of the I think he stayed on as producer.
It
I
could
think
be
a writer.
because it doesn't have his touch. To
No.
me, it's
No, it's definitely different. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's the one thing that you get with that film is you get the fact that the two of them are related, that they're brother and sister,
right. Which to me,
which holds true throughout the whole. Well, I mean that's the last time we see Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
Is in 2 until we finally get after all the Halloween sequels, and then finally
Nonsense.
we establish 20 years later H2O comes out, which I tell you right now, I enjoy Halloween H2O.
see, and I thought it was just okay. It didn't do much for me.
Well, I think, but to me, it's like it's okay, but I enjoy that more than the majority of the other Halloween
See,
films.
now I enjoyed Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, not because it was such a great movie, but the core premise and concept of the movie I kind of liked I found it interesting. It was different with the whole thing with like the masks
Right.
are gonna kill fries your brain, and all kids across America have these masks.
Yeah.
And it does end on a very disturbing note that basically you don't know if he makes it in time, and it is very possible that all these kids across America are dead.
Right.
And I kind of like that it doesn't have a happy ending, or it doesn't have a clear cut ending. It has to makes you think
Make
about
up your own.
Yeah.
No, and I think, there are obviously fans of Season of the Witch. I still think it just would have made for its own self-contained movie and
Yeah.
not included with the Halloween franchise.
Yeah, it is kind of odd. It's almost like having a Friday the 13th movie, like Friday the 13th Part
And not
4,
have
has
Jason
nothing to
Voorhees.
do with Jason Voorhees.
Right. Or his mother.
Right.
So to me, it's a throwaway film. It's one that I don't typically will go back and watch over. I have the box set of all the Halloween films. I typically do not watch that one too often.
I think my number one criticism of what they did in terms of the series is that I think they went to the well one time too many. They had it, because what they did is basically Halloween H2O ignores everything except I think Halloween 1 and Halloween 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Because they they keep the establishment that they're brother and sister.
Right. Everything between.
Oh, by the way, spoilers for anyone who's never seen Halloween before.
Everything
ever.
in between Halloween 2, after Halloween 2 and before Halloween H2O never happened.
Never happened.
So
And
20
hold that-
years
and
later-
we're gonna hold on to that.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have deja vu.
yeah, 20 years later they finally say, okay, there's been a lot of nonsense going on. Let's bring Jamie Lee Curtis back.
Right.
And do a Halloween 20 years later, Halloween H2O, and we'll just kind of pick up where we are now. And the last time we left off was the end of Halloween 2.
Correct.
And so that made sense. And somebody up the top said, we could make a lot of money off this, because at the end of the day, a lot of these horror movies, if they're brand spanking new, it's hit or miss.
Right.
You don't know it's going to be good. But if you take an established franchise and you make a next movie, almost doesn't matter what you do.
But also, you're bringing back.
It's going to make some money.
You're bringing back a star character.
Right.
Like
Well,
Jamie Lee Curtis.
You bring back Jamie Lee Curtis, and I guarantee you, Halloween H2O made a decent amount of money.
Yep.
It definitely was profitable. To me, it just wasn't that good. And then I think after Halloween H2O,
Came Halloween Resurrection, which was god awful.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Which
sure I
Jamie Lee
saw
Curtis
that.
is in the movie for just the very beginning of the film, and then that's it. That film goes off the rails, and then after that, we had a couple of years hiatus, and then we had the 2 Rob Zombie Halloween films, which were just completely over the top.
Yeah.
With the gore and killing. I was not a fan of those. It basically made like Michael Myers this unstoppable. It was like a 6'8" wrestler was the character.
Right.
Just happened to be in the mask.
and then you go 40 years, after Halloween, the original Halloween.
And then, yep.
And somebody decides to say, why don't we have a Halloween movie 40 years later that has Jamie Lee Curtis? And it pretty much negates everything that happened
except one.
except Halloween 1.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody said, well, we kind of did that 20 years ago. And they were like, well, who cares? Let's just do it again.
Let's do it again.
So it's like, you know what? Like, you know,
So you were literally going back to the same well
yeah,
to do it again.
Yeah, you did that already, and it didn't really work that well. You made your money. It was a cool idea, and then it's like, well, 20 years later, maybe everybody forgot about it. You know, like, you know what?
It'd be different if H2O was a forgettable film, but I don't think it is. Like if you're talking about the franchise in and of itself and how, like, to me, like, the film's worth watching, Halloween 1, 2, and to me H2O is one of those films. And, you know, if you're watching the franchise, like if you only had to pick a couple of these Halloween films because you didn't want to watch all of them, and and don't get me wrong, the quality goes down.
Yeah. Well, and not for nothing, if 20 years from now, like, it wouldn't support 10, maybe, well, in 20 years, I think Jamie Lee Curtis might be too old to that.
She's not going to be playing a starring role in it.
Yeah, it's just, you know, like her going.
She might play a
right.
cameo.
Right. Or maybe the grandmother of, or the great grandmother of, you know, somebody else fighting.
Right.
But like, like you can't just keep doing. I don't know. I really don't know of any other franchise or movie that has done what they did. I don't even know if they've done it once, let alone twice. Like, nobody's done it twice, and
Like,
most people have never done it.
literally taking a
Most
shot.
people have never done it at all. You know, people just kind of give. You know, they go with the flow, and this is what happened. Like, I don't think any of the Friday the 13th movies ignore any of the other ones. Not that there's a whole lot of continuity going on there, but still, it's like.
Well, that's what it is. It's not like there's. I don't know how much, if there's a ton of continuity paid attention to those, but.
Yeah. So,
Like with this, they completely wipe it out, with the exception of the fact that Halloween 1 takes place. Now, there are a couple of things with this film. You know, right off the bat, they bring back John Carpenter. So he's not, he doesn't direct the film.
yeah, he didn't direct it.
No, he didn't direct it. This is a Blumhouse now. Blumhouse has been known for like
They're
the
a
horror
horror
genre. And like this is their bread and butter, and they've been doing it, I think, well for the last, I guess, like 5 to 10 years that they've been really building up their production company. But Carpenter comes back to help do the music. Of course, we got Jamie Lee Curtis back. They treat this film as a like a post-traumatic stress victim.
Yeah.
They take away the relationship, which I think was a big mistake.
Do you? No, I see. I think I don't. I didn't like the fact that they were brother and sister. To me, that made no sense.
But in the first film, like, there is the baby in the crib, so to me, it's like, okay, like I can.
Let me put it this way: it's not needed. It doesn't. It doesn't explain anything in Halloween.
No, it's not needed. It's just like, because, like, why did he pick her?
Right. Okay. So, and I don't know that this is something that I really keyed upon until the last time I saw Halloween. It and I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie, but it finally struck me because you just said it's one of those things, like, I've gotten used to the fact that they're related.
Yes.
But it's hard to.
But in the first film, you don't know that.
Right. But it's hard to put your mindset to watch the first film with fresh eyes, and say, okay, what's happening and why, with the, and being ignorant of all the information that comes out in later films. You know,
And in the first film, I don't even think Carpenter knew that they were going to end up being related.
Right,
I think
no,
it was
I
a
don't-
matter of the film did
Yeah.
so well. Okay, we're making a sequel.
Right, 'cause
What can we do?
He wasn't banking on making a sequel. Like, he didn't have a whole, like, 5 films down
Chronology,
5-year
like,
plan. Like,
yeah.
he's just making a movie and hoping it makes money, and boom, it did. So what do we do now? But okay, so what I finally realized is that, okay, so Michael Myers kills his sister, boom, gets
Incarcerated.
incarcerated in a mental hospital, escapes, whatever, 20, well, I don't know how many years later it is, but he comes back he goes back to Haddonfield, Illinois, and he goes to his old house. He's in his house. And what happens is Laurie Strode, the Jamie Lee Curtis character, has to drop off a set of keys because her father's a real estate agent, I think, who's
Yes.
trying to sell the house. And she goes up to the house to drop the keys off, and she's walking with the little boy that she
Yeah.
winds up babysitting for later. And she's walking with him. And Michael Myers sees them. He actually sees them interact.
Right.
Yeah.
Up at the house,
As far as
yeah.
as far as he's concerned, she's on my lawn. She's on my front step, and this kid is with her. Who the hell are these guys? And somehow, whatever reason, he latches onto them because he. And it could just be because coincidence. These are the
It could be
people
because
that these are
they're
the
the
people
first
that showed
people
up.
that like he sees.
Right, exactly. Because he follows them to school, and follows them back, either one or the other.
Right.
He's really just, he is brought into because all the people that die in Haddonfield is all the people at the kid's house, because Laurie Strode is babysitting the girl.
Right.
The boy is across the street
With the other babies.
with the other babysitter, and he kind
Then the
of
boyfriend comes over
right.
to his
He
house.
follows that kid kind of home, or follows he just follows them to that area.
Yeah.
And he's pretty much keyed on those two houses, and that's it. He kills the other girl babysitting the boy that brought her boyfriend over.
And the
he kills the boyfriend, and he kills. Oh no, not her boyfriend.
No,
He kills the babysitter.
the babysitter.
And then the babysitter's friend, PJ Souls, shows up with her boyfriend.
That's right.
They both show up, and he's kind of there, and he kills them too.
Oh, that's right. The babysitter's the sheriff's daughter.
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
So it's like, and this is one of the things that, you almost got to keep in mind. Only 5 people die in the first Halloween.
Right.
And one of them is in the first couple minutes. It's the sister. It's his older sister.
And then the mechanic.
And that's not a very, drawn out,
it's very
brutal murder scene.
If you listen to the behind the scenes on that with Carpenter and who's his wife, Deborah
Hill.
Hill, I think. She is the one who's I think like opening up the drawers and like grabbing the knife and stuff like that.
Right.
Like if you ever listen to the
Sorry.
behind the scenes, it's really interesting how they filmed all that, and the fact that they filmed this in California, but it was supposed to take place up in Haddonfield. Was it Massachusetts or
Haddonfield's
Illinois?
supposed to be in Illinois.
Haddonfield, Illinois. But there's a palm tree in a scene
Yes.
that you can
Yes, there
see as Jamie Lee Curtis is
Yep.
walking towards the beginning. She's walking and crossing the street, and in the background, like if you look in this, it's a really long street, and if you look in the foreground all the way towards the back, you'll see a palm tree.
And I think a lot of the leaves are fake. They're either fake or painted, or they're made of paper or something.
Yeah.
They use a lot of fake leaves because it's fall.
It's supposed to be fall. It's
October,
Halloween,
Right. So they, after every scene, they gather them up.
They
and
had to
save
have
for
the
next
cast
scene.
and crew pile up all the leaves,
Yeah.
rebag them, and then bring them to the next scene, and then redistribute them across the lawn again. So I mean, just like the dedication, because like this is how you make a cheap film.
Right,
Like,
right.
You keep reusing
Yeah.
the same props.
Yeah, this, it's funny. They probably got these leaves from one of the school, like a leftover art project. But the second death is the mechanic,
Yeah.
which they don't even show.
No, you don't even see it.
that.
You just see the body.
Now, the one thing I never quite understood is why did the mechanic die? Why did he kill the mechanic?
I think it was just wrong place, wrong time.
But
He wanted
did
the car.
Michael Myers need? No, Michael Myers had his own car. Michael Myers
He
shows
needed
up.
to change of clothes.
Oh, that's what
where he gets the
he got.
overalls.
That's where he got the change of clothes from.
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't need a car because he showed up
That's
in
right.
Haddonfield with the car he stole from the from the
doc.
psychiatric
Yeah,
facility.
yeah.
So I always in my head I'm going like
Loomis.
How did this all happen? So
Loomis.
okay, he changed his
needed the
clothes. He
overalls.
needed his overalls. So okay, that's the second death, which you don't even see. All you see is like half of a dead body.
And then it's the other three.
And
kids.
the only other 3 people that die is Nancy Loomis. That's her real name. Oddly enough,
yeah, Loomis. That's in
Dr. Loomis's character is Dr. Loomis's character is a homage to, I believe, to Psycho. Loomis is one of the names of the character. It's the exact whatever. I think even the first name is actually right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that one of the characters in Psycho is that name. But Nancy Loomis is the actress who plays
That's the sheriff's daughter.
the sheriff's daughter, and
Okay.
I forget her name, but I like her a lot. So she's the third death, and that death is pretty intense. You know, he gets her in the car.
Yeah.
You know, that's a pretty graphic death. That's the first graphic death of the movie.
But nothing's really that, not too
But
gore.
well, he strangles her.
Strangles her, yes, but it's not like you're not
Well,
seeing
I mean,
a lot of
like-
there's
like-
not a lot of gore
Yeah,
in
no,
this film.
no,
like,
there
like
isn't.
like typical slashers that came out.
There's,
Like, your
there's
typical like
hardly any blood, and
Right.
and not an endless parade of violence. It's more psychological and anticipation.
it's
You know, but
very
you know, you know, the first, like I said, the first death is just that, you know, through the eyes of the Halloween mask kind of knife slashing. You don't really, it's really hard to see. It's more implied. The second death, you don't see anything happen. You just, you know, notice somebody died. The third death that's the one that's visually impactful. You know, when he's getting her and you just see the kind of her eyes roll up in her head.
Yeah.
Like that's actually a disturbing death because you actually kind of like these characters. And then the fourth death is the boyfriend who gets
oh, so he gets impaled.
picked up and impaled with the knife
Yeah, and it gets hung on the door.
on the door.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty intense scene.
Yep.
And
Well, because you just see his like pure strength, like
Yeah.
being able to like pick someone up with one hand and then stab them with the other.
and one of the scariest parts of the movie is just before the fifth death when he shows up in the bedroom where PJ Souls is waiting for a boyfriend to come back.
Oh, when he's got the
the sheet on,
Yeah.
and with the boyfriend's eyeglasses. Like I remember people finding that to be one of like that was really unsettling. And then he strangles her with the telephone cord.
Right.
You know, and that's all the violence. I mean, there's there's a lot of times the fighting with Laurie Strode. There's
But a lot of it was the artistic way that they built
Yeah.
up to those scenes.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is kind of lost in the 2020 version of the film.
Well, I think it's lost in most films after that point because it's the violence is not gratuitous.
Right.
It's it means something.
But as we get further-
it's meaningfully placed in a well-made film.
As the sequels went on, you would see quite a few, the blood, the gore, all started to get
Yeah.
more and more violent.
I mean, the
as
movie
you went
is
through
really
it.
meant to scare the hell out of you.
Like the
It's
first,
scary.
the two Rob Zombie films, I'm telling you, are like some of the most like violent, like killings that.
Right,
you've
and that's
seen.
what I think.
Did
I
you
see
see both of those or one
I
of
don't.
them?
I honestly don't remember. I think I have, but it's probably been a while.
Yeah, it's
And they
they're a
again,
little
they
disturbing.
didn't
almost.
they didn't do much for me.
No,
You know.
no, and I mean, the 2020 film. The 2020 film. The
me,
nice
it's
thing about the
very
2020 film, it takes you back. There are times where like the kids are walking in the street. There's a lot of repeated themes in the 2020 film compared to the 1978. The beginning where the kids are walking down the street and the granddaughter's talking about Jamie Lee Curtis and they're asking her about like her plans and she's like, oh, my family's kind of like shut down around Halloween. My grandmother doesn't doesn't talk about it, and then like the kids are all like talking, like asking her questions, and that's where you get the reveal of some people said that they were related, but that's not true.
Yeah.
So like you start to like see how they're dismantling a lot of the continuity from the other films and to truly make it a standalone sequel.
Well, I think one of the most disturbing parts, not disturbing, it's just a little crazy. You think about it, like, okay, so like, when you dance with the devil doesn't change. The devil changes you. At the end of the day, Michael Myers is who he is. And ultimately, even both Donald Pleasance's character, who was in later films, and this new psychiatrist, and ultimately Jamie Curtis's character, they are fundamentally broken because of their interaction.
I think that was
with Michael Myers.
I think that was a great job of what. If you're trying to make this believable, and that this is taking place 40 years later, this woman was so traumatized by what happened to her that she tried to prepare her own daughter
Right.
from the moment she was a little girl and being able to defend herself and take care of herself, and she basically projected all of this anxiety and post-traumatic stress onto her daughter, and you can see that it tore their relationship apart as the daughter started to get older. And of course we get to the point where Jamie Lee Curtis is right, and she's
but basically her life has been lost. For the last 40
like you
years.
said before, shattered.
Yeah, it's destroyed.
It is.
And the sad part is like there's
She went into
there's
she's
no
an alcoholic
guarantee
now.
that she was right. In a normal scenario, because if you look at what happened on the surface value, is basically you had a kid who killed his sister when he was little. He got thrown away in a psychiatric facility and basically said nothing to anybody for X amount of years.
Right.
And Donald Pleasance is studying this character forever, and it's totally warped his mind, and it's like even him like
he's become almost obsessed with his patient.
Just take it from there. Michael Myers may never get out of prison and may never do anything. And all of his fretting and frustration was for nothing. So, okay, he does get out. He kills this girl's 3 friends. Actually, 2 friends and a boyfriend. But I'm sure she knew the guy too. And it's like, Michael Myers is not a mass murderer. He only killed 5 people in his entire life. He's not a serial killer.
What's the definition of a serial killer?
I mean, a serial killer is someone who I think
he is considered a serial killer.
He's not though. Like a pattern killer who consistently does this. He basically did all his murders in one day.
Right, but you don't think in this. I would think at this point he starts to create himself as a serial killer.
No, I don't think so because if you look at all the serial killers that have ever been described as serial killers, they've had multiple murders under their belt over the course of time.
We'd have to look up these definitions because I have a feeling that there's definitely something that we're missing.
He's a killer. He's a psychopathic killer. But
what's considered by the end of this film, he's considered a mass murderer because this is a mass like anything more than.
Well,
10.
no, but I'm saying up until Halloween. At that point, he's not. He's not this. He. I don't know that he should have the notoriety that he has, because he didn't do a whole lot.
Well, he doesn't accept his talent.
And what he did in a very short time span.
This guy isn't a guy who's known throughout the United States. This guy is known in Haddonfield because this is where it happened, and of course it happened on Halloween, which is a celebrated night throughout the year. It's not like it was a random night in June that he did this.
Right.
So I think that's where, because even the sheriff, when we meet the new sheriff in town, this was a guy who was he was on duty back then during the original Halloween. He was like a young person on the force, I think, at this point, and he as soon as he heard the name, that triggered.
Oh yeah, in Haddonfield, this guy's a legend.
Right.
But I think in terms of the grand picture,
grand scale, no.
I don't think this guy's
sound like a Jeffrey Dahmer or something like that.
Exactly.
You're not knowing that name
I think
yet.
maybe the notoriety of the case is that he was unstoppable. He survived every bullets put into him.
Right.
That's what gives it the supernatural edge. But it's nobody takes it that seriously. He's it's okay, yeah, he escapes from the bus, because they just okay. So why the facility the prison is so close to Haddonfield is, to me, is a little too convenient.
Well, it's just probably a close psychiatric facility.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's in the next town over. He's just all right,
where are they going to ship him?
We're going to put you in the county jail. He should be in federal lockup somewhere. So. But
all federal lockups have a psychiatric facility.
Yeah, but I just find it hard to believe that it's 3 miles away. To me, that was just to make it convenient so that when he escapes, he doesn't have far to go. But it's a little all right.
It's very similar to the first film, though.
But I think he drove a lot further.
No,
I think he had to drive across state, I think.
But even this one too, you got to remember, the psychiatric facility, he gets He gets out. He gets himself to the gas station. He finds the two reporters that were the two investigative, like the journalists that were like looking into his case.
Right.
And he ends up killing them. Now those were like violent scenes.
Right.
You know,
Well,
like that to me, like that was right out of the trailer, where like the girl's like, you know, scared inside the stall, and all of a sudden he drops
Yeah.
the teeth down.
But take
that-
like Laurie Strode now. Like Laurie Strode had a really bad day back in 1978.
Right.
You know, and it's like, you know, it completely fractured her, I'm sure, but it's like, you know, she's just not like, you know, scared of everything. She like buckles up and becomes like, I'm preparing for the showdown. You know. And
Well,
it's-
she's waiting for him to come back. Like her
Right.
whole thought
Well, she's
is
waiting,
that he's going to come
but
back
like,
to get me.
it's like 40 years later, you know, and
Right.
at the end of the day, you know, he may not come back. And if he
Right.
never does, like her life was lost.
Right.
Like it completely invalidates
But that's
everything
what
that
her
she
whole
done
fa-
and all the damage that was done, you know. And but the fact that he comes back, she's like, okay,
Well,
I
she's-
was right.
she was.
But not for nothing, 40 years went by and she had a miserable life. And
Oh,
her
she did.
children had a miserable life.
Yes.
You know, and she really is the victim of this, you know. She's a flawed hero because she's banking everything on him coming to get her.
But I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, I know, but it's like you almost like you feel bad for her because it's like,
Of course you do.
you know,
Because like you wasted your life in fear.
yeah.
Like that's what you had, and even her own family, her own daughter and her granddaughter, like he's locked up. He's not going. You know, he's not coming to get you. Like it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And yet she would consistently feel that something was going to happen to the point where he was coming back to get her.
Right, right.
And she was going to be prepared. Now I thought that was very interesting how she kind of turned her whole house into like this fortress.
Yeah.
But before we even get to that, there are a couple of really good scenes that I like that they kind of change. They take a very similar scene to the original, but they change it up a little bit.
Yeah. Now, to me, like we're going to go through those for sure, and I almost feel like I don't know if those were really cool creative choices, or was it just somebody sitting there going, you know, with a little checklist of stuff going, okay, you know what, this is what happened in the '78 film. You know, let's do something a little different to, you know, reminisce you about it. And it's like I feel like they were just like, to me it seemed like easy decisions. You know, same scenario just reversed, and it's just like
I don't know. I
I'm
don't think
struggled
so.
as opposed to whether those things that they did were corny or not corny.
think
I
it's
don't know
just
whether they're cheesy or not cheesy.
Well, it's gonna be a personal preference. I enjoyed what they did. You know, instead of, you know, in the '78, you had Jamie Lee Curtis looks out the window at school and she sees Michael Myers. And this
Yeah.
one, the granddaughter is in school. She looks outside and she sees her grandmother. She sees
Right.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right. And I'm like, is that like cool or is that like a cheap thrill?
PJ Souls gets a cameo in this.
Yes.
Gets an audio cameo.
Yeah,
and not a
and-
visual cameo.
My only problem with that is that I wish they would have shown her.
I bet you they did in a cutscene and it just didn't make it.
You know, and I feel better because in all honesty, we knew that was her because we saw it in the credits. And we're
Right.
like, oh my God, again, this is why you watch the credits, because you find all this cool stuff out. But I did not find her voice to be recognizable. Like when I heard the teacher, I didn't say, "Oh,
I
my
wouldn't-
God, that's
yeah, it's
PJ
not-
Souls."
She doesn't. I don't think she has a voice like that where you can tell that it's her.
Yeah, yeah, and plus, you know, again, it's exactly she doesn't. You know, she
Her voice
doesn't
doesn't stand out.
So like, I almost feel like cheated, where like, you know, PJ Souls has a cameo, but it's you don't see her, and almost I would say almost anyone watching the movie
Oh, didn't know it was her.
had no idea that it was her when she
Well, when was the
talked.
last time PJ Souls actually did something that you could actually hear her voice
Right,
now?
exactly.
So
you know,
you wouldn't.
not for nothing. Most people don't even know who the hell PJ Souls is. You know, a lot of people don't even like.
There's
know.
people right now that are watching this that are like,
Who the hell are
who is PJ Souls?
PJ Souls is just one of PJ Souls is one of those people who was used a decent amount of times in some horror films in the '70s. She played one of Carrie's classmates in Brian De Palma's Carrie in I want to say '76. I want to say
Carrie.
it was '76. You know, and she was she was actually pretty good in that. A lot of people are good in that movie. I really like Carrie. But yeah, it's like I was like, I was excited when I saw her name in there, and then it also made me want to think, maybe the other girl had a cameo, but I didn't know her name.
Oh, okay.
Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I know a single other movie that Nancy Loomis is in, and not for nothing. That's a shame because I think Nancy Loomis is beautiful. Like I really like her character.
Oh, she was great in
Yeah.
'78 in the '78 Halloween.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
really, really beautiful girl. And it's a shame that so there's literally, in terms of like, when most people go see these horror films, there's, usually a lot of blood, usually a lot of gore, a lot of violence, mostly gratuitous. There's usually a lot of skin. And oddly
some of it,
enough,
yeah.
there is very little nudity in the original Halloween. The only nudity you have, there's only 2 scenes with nudity, and as you see Michael Myers' older sister,
When he kills her.
when he killed her because she's naked doing her hair in front of a mirror, and she's actually pretty cute. She got a nice body. She's pretty busty, but it's fractured. The image is fractured because it's
Because of the
through
mask.
it's through the mask.
Yeah.
And then there is a scene where Nancy Loomis is changing in the back room somewhere, but her back is to you, so you don't see anything, which is a shame because I think she has a great body, and I would have loved to have seen her body in that shot. And but she's not like the super slutty character in the
No,
movie.
PJ Souls is.
PJ Souls is the super
Yeah.
slutty character, and I'm pretty sure there's a nude scene with her
With the
in the
boyfriend.
bed.
Yeah.
I even think. I don't even think. I even think she's not nude until after her boyfriend is already dead. She's kind of flashing Michael Myers as he's standing in the doorway.
Right. Thinking it's her boyfriend.
Yeah, and this is this all like when I said before, like okay, so PJ Soul super slutty, she's getting killed. Nancy Loomis, she's more of like normal, like
Right.
normal amount of sluttiness, whatever. Like she's like a normal girl. She's not overly loose, but she's not uptight either. She wound up getting killed, and then you got the virginal Jamie Lee Curtis. And everyone will sit there and say, "Oh, well, those are the rules of horror films." It's
That
like,
was the
no,
rule.
those are not the rules of
They
the horror
established
films.
the rule.
That's the movie that John Carpenter made.
Right. But it established
Right.
the rules.
Because then the people say, okay, someone says, wow, how do we duplicate that success? Well, what did he do? This. Oh, well, that, and now all of a sudden these become the rules. And it's like, that's why you appreciate Halloween and Black Christmas for what they are. Because they weren't
There were no
following,
rules that they were
weren't
following.
following rules.
Yeah.
They certainly weren't breaking any rules because there are certain aspects of both of those movies that probably break some of the rules. But like, the rules didn't exist then. And they didn't make the movies to establish the rules. The rules were made by people watching the films going, what can we do? Well, this is what we got to do. And then as soon as another person did it, and
Those
another
are all
person
the, those
did
are
it,
all the higher ups.
they
in the
became
company,
they became the rules. But back in the day, these people just made movies, and this is what happened.
Yeah.
So when because there are a lot of things that are broken in Black Christmas, and it's like, well, that breaks all the rules. Well, the slasher genre didn't even exist when Black Christmas came out, and neither did when Halloween came out. Halloween really started the genre.
Right.
But Carpenter wasn't trying to start the genre.
No.
All the people that imitated him were. So it is what it is. But you know what? Oddly enough, I think there's almost very little nudity
And the new one?
in the new one.
I think there's hardly any. Yeah. I
And
think they made a conscious choice
it
to
probably
that.
could have benefited from that because I feel a lot of the violence in the newer movie was very graphic and over the top and not subtle at all.
Well, when we talk about Michael Myers, his when he's fighting the 2 journalists and he fights the guy, just slams
That's
his
a
head
good
into the
scene.
wall. I think that's a great
To
scene.
me, I think that's the only really stylized scene in terms of killings.
In the bathroom.
Yeah, and
I
oddly
thought
enough,
that was great.
I think that's the one that shows up mostly in the trailers
Yes.
because it plays well.
Well, it sucks
You
you
know,
in.
that to me is pretty good. Whereas all the other ones are so
thing
matter
too
of
is,
factly.
and after that he pulls the mask out and puts it back on him. And I have to tell you, the prop guys that did this, fantastic. This to me was the best mask since the original film, and I don't know how they recreated it.
And it should be 40 years old because it is actually the original mask. Like it's the mask it's supposed to
Well,
be
it's
the mask
supposed to
he
be, yeah.
wore.
I mean, prop
40 years
wise,
earlier.
prop wise, it's not. It's it's.
Oh yeah,
it's
no,
a
no,
newer,
no, prop wise,
updated
yeah.
version. But like
in
it's,
the movie,
yeah,
that's
and
the
it
same
looks
mask.
and it looks that way,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
it
think
looks old.
I think they did a great job with that. Like I don't know if they found the molds to the Captain Kirk masks and they were able to remake it that way, but none of the other masks in the subsequent films did as good of a job as the 2018 movie did. They did such a fantastic job with the mask. I really have to put that out there because to me that his mask is so iconic
Yeah.
in horror film history that it's a shame that none of these other Halloween films could get it right.
Mm-hmm.
They tried and it failed. The masks just look cheaper and cheaper as they went on and on into the film. So to me, it's a real shame, and it just adds a little more authenticity to this film. And the thing that I kept waiting for in this movie is I kept waiting for them to go back to the house. Like, what happened to his house 40 years from now? Like, from 1978, like, was the house sold? Is it the same thing as in, the original Halloween, where or in all these other subsequent films where the house just stayed, it never sold, it just fell apart, and people just stayed away from it. So like at one point when he's walking through Haddonfield and you see there's a great shot of Michael Myers as he arrives on Halloween night in the neighborhood, and all these kids are out just running around going trick or treating.
Yeah, which is actually kind of funny because I actually, the amount of kids that are on the street trick or treating, I don't know that there's that many kids anymore these days trick or treating.
Oh, I think there are. I think it
Yeah?
just depends on the neighborhood you go into.
Depends on the neighborhood.
Yeah, because we got to think too. Like, if some neighborhoods kids grow up and they move out, there's no more kids. But all these other young families that are moving into certain places and they all have kids in certain areas, their streets are going to be flooded.
Yeah, because I remember in the 70s going trick or treating and it was jam packed. And then all of a sudden there was all those scares that came out with razor blades and apples and all that shit, which I think was none of that actually ever happened. And all of a sudden, like trick or treating wasn't as popular anymore. Like actually, all these kids going out, and it was a shame because they ruined trick or treating. But it was nice to see when I saw the scene of all the kids trick or treating. It reminded me a lot of what I used to see back in the 70s. Like, I remember back in the 70s, like you were waiting online at the house you were at because there were kids. There were one or two kids or groups of kids in front of you, which was kind of interesting.
There's a great long shot that's set up right around that time, and there's a replicated scene here too when the kids bump into Michael Myers as he's like standing at the crowd and he's kind of like looking around, and it's very reminiscent of the 1978 where he's right outside the school and the two kids that are running. I think it's even Tommy and then like his friend, and they bump into him.
I thought it was the two kids that were picking on.
Oh, maybe it was the kids that were picking on.
I think it might have been the three. It might have been the two or three kids that were.
And
picking
then they basically
on
ran into him. So again, trying to play off of the 1978 film, but after that, there's a really great long shot that they have of Michael Myers, and they kind of like it's almost like they follow him down this like driveway. And he goes and he ends up going into a garage, picking up a hammer, and then going into the house. And the woman, he's literally trailing the woman by like 5 to 7 feet, and she like never hears him or feels him or sees him. And she walks in, and then he goes in from behind her in the kitchen,
a hammer,
and you don't see it. Now, there's something, and he bludgeons her to death, obviously, and then of course right after that he picks up the kitchen knife and he finds it. But
he's upgrading.
One of these things that this film, some of the parts that they did get right is they didn't show every death. Some of these killings were done off screen, and I think to John's point, what he was saying before, like the original, like sometimes that sets up a little bit better. It's like hide the monster, the whole Jaws scenario where you just don't show the monster or don't show the killings because it builds up the suspense a little bit more. And there was a very suspenseful moment during this scene where he continues to walk through the house and he sees the crib and the baby's in there. And
and it's like, are you gonna? Well, prior to that, he actually killed a young kid.
Yes,
he actually killed.
He does kill a kid,
a young kid. I mean, this kid's probably what, 12.
Yeah, he had to have been.
You know, he kills this kid on screen, and it's just like, wow, he's just killing everybody.
And that was unexpected.
Yeah, no,
that was unexpected. And I
Now
don't think
now he's
and I
up
don't
to
think
this
that was
baby.
I don't think that was a bad thing. I think it just shows like how ruthless he could be, and that he doesn't discriminate against.
Well, I mean, also to me, like I almost feel like
The kid wasn't a threat to him.
no, he wasn't. Like in this movie, he's basically, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, he's out for Laurie Strode and possibly her family, but he's pretty much killing anybody that gets in
Anyone
his
that's in his way.
And that's not what was done in the first film.
No, and I think that's where you're talking, and to me, that's where everything was set up better in the first one because it
Yeah.
was more
It was
stylized.
it was
time consuming.
Yeah.
There was a thought process behind. It almost seems like his killings. It took
Yeah.
time. Where this one,
It
seems like it was very fast.
Yeah.
Like it was okay. I'm going to kill this person. Like there's one point where the camera's just basically on a window, and there's a woman who's talking on the phone, and she's talking, and the Michael just comes in from behind the
Yeah,
house
and
just strangles her.
Well, no,
oh, no, he stabs her.
he puts a knife like right through her
Yeah.
neck, and it's like wow, that was like
Yep.
that scene right there had more violence in it than the entire first Halloween period.
Yeah.
But
And
like the first movie is kind of like like it's like a personalized persecution, of Laurie Strode and her friends, and just in terms of the way the scenes are edited and paced, because Michael Myers, almost throughout the entire movie, is walking very slowly,
Yes.
and
that is scary.
yeah,
Like
and the way they edit it, it's like, oh my god, he's almost there. Wait, he's closer. Oh my god, he's closer. It's these,
Right.
You know,
And then the way that he would just disappear.
Yeah.
Was
it was
great.
everything was presented in a stylized fashion, like almost like a play.
But in this one, it's just
In this movie, it's just everything just kind of happens.
right, and I feel like the pace was a little bit faster than it could have been. Like they could have. There was one really nice scene. The kid who was dressed up, who was kissing the girl in the backyard. Right, he kisses her friend, and she's like, pissed off because she's like, "What are you doing? You're drunk. I don't. I'm not here to kiss. Why am I here to make out with you?"
Oh wait, the friend.
The friend.
Yeah.
Who tries to take advantage.
You know what though? He's not trying to take advantage. I felt bad for that kid.
He's not. I mean,
because this kid.
well, he had a crush on her.
He was like her friend for probably a gazillion years.
Yeah.
Always had a crush on her. Never said anything. She's dealing with this. She's going out with this jerk who's a real jerk, and it's like he's had too much to drink and he makes a pass.
Yeah.
And she like blows up and like, you're a jerk, and he's just like, I'm just sitting like, you know what? This is the guy you want to go out with. He's not going to be making out with your best friend or some other random chick or behind your back. And it's like, and this poor kid gets killed.
But that was, to me, that was one of the more stylized killings in this film, where the spotlights kept going on and off, and Michael kept like moving in different spots until he finally got like right up in there and killed him. I like that. I thought that was really well done.
I almost wish like the boyfriend got killed, but he didn't. He was a
No,
jerk.
I think the boyfriend in continuity has something to do, dating all the way back to the 1970s. Like his family has something to do with
Oh yeah.
that, which was I think supposed to be explored in the sequel, the Halloween Kills movie, which, funny enough, was supposed to come out this year.
Right.
And they pushed it back to 2021.
Now the other girl, her friend, she's the one babysitting the black kid, and I really liked
Oh,
the
he's
whole
great.
scene
Though the two of them
because I like the girl.
Yep.
And
then the kid
and
that
not
she's
just because she's super mad hot. And again, they didn't show. She didn't. She's got a great rack, and you don't get to see it. I'm just like, they did it to me again. But the black kid is that.
Oh, he's fantastic.
He is absolutely hysterical. I honestly think he steals. He
steals
He might steal the movie. I enjoy his scenes so much. His dialogue is so funny.
Yeah. And he plays it off so naturally.
Yeah.
Like, I think the two of them had such great chemistry together, and it played so well on screen.
And I'm glad that her boyfriend got killed, but I think it sucked that she got killed. But, and I was like...
Well, because she wasn't a lazy babysitter. Like, she was actually
Yeah,
trying
like she
to
was
protect
actually a
him.
really good kid.
Yeah.
And then, but luckily, the kid, the little
he
kid
gets
didn't
out.
get killed. Like, he got... All right, somebody got away. Like Jesus wasn't a,
Well,
wasn't a complete
he's telling the
disaster.
boyfriend, don't go up there, you're gonna get killed.
You're gonna get killed.
Oh man, no, he was great. Well, I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna smoke weed.
Yeah, you want me to show your mom your browser history? Oh no, oh no. So he definitely had some funny
man.
lines. It added some good comic relief.
He to me was one of the best parts of this film.
Now I'll tell
He
you
was
that the
really
guy
good.
who I didn't really care for too much was
The,
the black guy with the cowboy hat who seemed to be in.
is he like a mayor? Was he the mayor?
I
or
thought he
something?
was. I don't know what he was.
He's like a city official. He was something that.
For all I know, he's a fucking cowboy that just runs around like I don't know what he was.
Right.
And he didn't do anything that important except, like, say, we got a whole thing going on here. What are we going to do? And I'm like, he didn't really do anything.
I didn't understand his role, and I wonder if that's going to get explored more in the sequel film, because there's supposed to be 2 other films that are coming out. I'll be interested to see what they do with that. But yeah, I didn't understand his role in it. And then of course, we get to the point of when they actually capture Michael Myers, the sheriff and the new Loomis, the new psychiatrist.
So one thing, I'm pretty sure this happened in one of the previous Halloween films. There's a scenario where some kid's Halloween costume is very reminiscent of what Michael Myers looks like, and I think they accidentally kill him, but they actually wind up killing a kid. And in the back of my head, when they were like driving around, I'm like, oh, there he is, and they're like, it's like, you know what? You better be right, because he's just driving full speed
at him.
to hit him with the car. And I'm like, oh my God, is this the movie where they kill the wrong, like, they hit him and they go down, so you killed the wrong one. But it was, but I'm like, that's a pretty bold move for a cop. It's dark out.
Well, because I think
it's Halloween. Everybody's in costume.
But at that point, it was late enough where most of the kids were probably inside.
Yeah.
Because it was later at night, and so you saw this guy. Plus, I think he had the knife out.
Okay.
So I mean, at that point, you can narrow it down. But this is
that's
where
really
you see
funny because look at me. I went trick or treating one year about 12 years ago. I'm walking around with a knife at like 10 o'clock at night. I'm surprised I didn't get arrested.
And you had a real one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Oh, it was real. Yeah, it was a real butcher knife.
Real
butcher knife.
great.
I was Psycho Hillbilly from Dilbert, who basically just walks around with a pair of jeans on, no shirt, long hair and a beard, and a butcher knife. And that was my Halloween costume.
Yeah, if you see this man in your neighborhood, please go inside.
Yeah, and I went trick or treating. I got candy. I had my pumpkin. I got trick or treating. One of my friend's neighbors said to me, who I didn't know him. I said, oh, before I stop at my friend's house, my friend Kevin's house, I'm gonna go trick or treating to his next door neighbor, who doesn't even know me. And he's just like, oh, this is, and he's giving me candy, and he's just like, is that a real knife? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay, but I'm a professional. And he was just like, as soon as I got out of there, I ran to Kevin's house because I'm like, this guy's calling the cops on me in a heartbeat. I'm like, that's funny.
Next time, go with a prop. So, the new psychiatrist puts on Michael Myers' mask.
Yeah, well, the new psychiatrist is another broken character.
Yeah.
He's snapped.
He's crazy, too.
Because he's decided that he wants to figure out what it's like to kill somebody.
Yes.
And what does he do?
What he wants to know.
He kills the cop just to fulfill that fantasy. And it's just like, whoa. And I can tell you right now, I didn't see that coming.
No. That was a big twist.
That was a big twist.
There was definitely a moment in this where I'm wondering, when the psychiatrist puts the mask on, I'm like, please tell me they're not going to make this guy the new killer.
Michael Myers.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the only one, because I know that there were other people that thought that too. And thank God that didn't last, because that would have been awful. And
basically, like I said, like he's trying to get all this information and from Michael Myers, and trying to get
he wants to hear him talk.
Yeah,
he wants
the answers. He wants to. Yeah. He's like this sponge that's trying to get all this information from Michael Myers, and Michael Myers doesn't give a shit because he kills him. Michael Myers just outright kills him, and like I said, they're like when you dance with the devil doesn't change. The devil changes you.
Yeah,
and he just crushes his head, which is like, yeah, because Michael Myers could Michael Myers could care less about the needs of the psychiatrist. Like he could care less.
You know, and it's amazing to try to even get inside his head because I feel like you just can't. You can't understand what's driving him. And I think that's probably what ended up driving this psychiatrist mad, is that he couldn't figure that out
Yeah.
and wanted to know what that was like. You know,
And I think even as a viewer, you don't know what's driving Michael Myers.
no, and you don't know what's going to end up happening with him.
And I think that's one of the strengths of the first film, is that it there is very little rationale.
No,
That
if you go,
that even spurns, why Michael Myers killed his sister when he was a kid. Like it's
you
just,
still never know that.
right, exactly. You
No.
don't. He's just like, he's just this force that has to be dealt with, and it's tough.
Well, that's what his lore grew into as the sequels went on, whereas he was this force of nature.
And-
like whereas in the first film, you don't know that.
And we mentioned this before, but the music in the first film is unbelievable. And I think all the other movies use the same theme,
Yeah.
but none of them use it nearly
As
as well.
effectively.
Nearly, not even close.
I thought this film did a decent job with that. Not as good as 78,
Yeah.
but because Carpenter was back and he had
Yeah.
input on that, I think it gives a little bit more credibility to what they did music-wise with
And
this
that's really a trademark of John Carpenter, because a lot of his films, music really play. Even the music in Assault on Precinct 13, that's probably a movie that most people have not seen.
At least not the original.
That's actually, yeah, the original. That's actually a pretty good movie.
Even on the thing.
Oh yeah, The Thing,
Yeah.
Escape from New York,
Mm-hmm.
The Fog. Pretty sure John Carpenter did The
Carpenter did
Fog.
The Fog.
These are movies that you really like. The music it's almost like a little electronic based, but it really really is good. And I think the first movie really benefits from I don't want to say the shock ending, but it's not a happy ending. It's an
not.
open-ended, unresolved, like the nightmare's not over.
Right.
And
Which
that-
led directly into the second film.
Yeah, and even if no sequels had followed the original Halloween, that movie
they could have ended it
that
like
movie
that.
ends on a perfect note,
Yeah.
where it's like he's not dead and he's still out there, and it's just Laurie Strode is just crying. She doesn't even know, like she hasn't seen that he's not there, but
Right.
based on Donald Pleasance's look, she knows that he got up and walked away and he's still out there, and it just ends like that, and that is a brutal ending, because a lot of really good horror movies from the 70s, end that way, where it's like a disturbing ending. Black Christmas ends disturbingly.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre ends disturbingly. And I think they emulated that in Friday the 13th.
The original.
With the original first Friday the 13th with the shock ending, and I even think Nightmare on Elm Street, ends that way too. But it's like these are movies that they don't have and go back to Night of the Living Dead.
The original.
Night of the Living Dead does not have a happy ending.
No.
And that's keeping true to, I think, to true horror films, where it's like things don't get wrapped up tight.
Yeah, it's not a nice
and
bow.
tight in the bow.
Well, I mean, if you think about this, so we get to the point where Jamie Lee Curtis gets her daughter back to her house, and now she's basically in her house of fun.
Yeah,
this is like Kevin McAllister's house from Home Alone, only on a much deadlier scale.
So her getting to the house is, to me, one of
The granddaughter.
The granddaughter, to me, is one of the stupidest scenarios going on.
She goes through the woods.
Well, first off, they literally put one cop car, to guard the house, and apparently not even in front of the house, like way down the road, and I think facing the wrong way, like what are you talking? What are you doing here? Because this is like, when the original Halloween was going on with a limited police presence, because the police didn't even believe anything was going on. This movie is going on with an enormous police presence. That like the whole
Well, they're patrolling. They are patrolling
They're
the
doing
roads.
all
right?
this. Yeah, they're doing. The police are involved, and they know people are dying. They know that this guy's a killer, and he's. So it's like they put this one cop car down the road, and it's like, okay, really, just one with these two banana heads. It's like, all right, and it's far. And then when they show when Mike when the how did who drove the car?
Which one?
How did the granddaughter even get to that road?
The psychiatrist drove there
Oh, the psych right.
because Michael Myers was still
Right. The
unconscious. in the back seat.
psychiatrist killed the cop.
Oh,
continued to
took his
drive.
car
Right.
and continued to go
Right.
towards.
And basically on that road
Laurie
out
Strode's
down
house.
the house, that's when
Yeah.
Michael Myers kills the girl.
Right.
Oh, sorry, kills the
Kills the
psychiatrist.
psychiatrist.
But it's like, yeah, so this is what you have. This is insane. You have Michael Myers, the girl, their car, the cop car, the road that goes to the grandmother's house, and basically it's a straight line from where the granddaughter's standing to the grandmother's house.
Right.
And Michael Myers is behind her. All she has to do is run down the road. And in fact, there is a cop car down the road. The cop car hasn't gotten there yet. Like, there's the cops.
Right.
What does she do? She goes perpendicular right into the woods, and she's going to see if she can find her way to her grandmother's house. And I'm just like maybe they needed to do that for plot,
Right.
but that might be one of the things in the movie that made absolutely no sense.
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely things that weren't perfect about this film, and I
I'm
can see
like,
that
I'm
being
like,
one
I'm
of
like, I'm like, why is she running into the woods? She knows the grandmother's house is right there, and there's cops there. Why is she like that? That to me just was like, all right, that made no sense. And a lot of things don't make sense sometimes, and I let them go. But to me, that was the one thing in this movie that I was like, that was really stupid. I have a hard time letting that go. What do you call it? Plausible deniability?
Yes.
Suspension of
Suspension of disbelief.
I'm like, I had a lot of trouble suspending that disbelief. Whereas a lot of other things, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But that was just, I'm like,
Well, I thought.
why didn't you run the other? It made in a way just as much sense to just run past Michael Myers and just go the other way and say, all right, let's start this over again. Like, it made no sense.
I thought one of the nice twists towards the end is when Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter, so the mother of the main character, is downstairs in the.
Safe. I want to call it almost like
It's almost like a safe room.
like a safe
almost,
room.
right? It's like
Yeah.
there's like an underground
Panic
passage.
room.
Yeah, almost like a panic
It's
room.
almost like
right.
a panic room.
So she gets down there and she's starting to. You almost see like anxiety like creeping up on her as more and more stuff was starting to happen, and she ends up grabbing a rifle at one point.
That has her name on it, right?
I think something like that.
Or
It's,
her
it's from like when
nickname.
she was like a kid,
Yeah.
like, and she's having like these flashbacks, and it's her. And then at this point, like the granddaughter has made it back to the house, and they're both downstairs. And Jamie Lee Curtis basically locks them under there and says, "You stay here, no matter what." And then eventually, Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers kind of like have it out in the house, and Myers does get the better of her, and then he marches downstairs, and then hears or basically like figures out that they're underneath this.
Yeah.
So the daughter is basically like playing it off like she's like this scared person, and then all of a sudden Michael Myers, he opens up the top, the countertop,
So to get down the stairway.
and then the daughter just point blank just shoots him dead
Boom.
center, and it's like,
You fell
whoa, yeah, and like she played possum.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that. I didn't expect her to like all of a sudden be a dead shot like that. Like it all came back to her, and so then all of a sudden, like she tells her daughter, like this isn't a safe room. It's a prison.
It's a trap.
It's a trap, right?
Yeah.
And so they run upstairs, and then they lock him in, and then from there, Jamie Lee Curtis has basically got these gas lines throughout the whole house, like turned on, and they light it on fire.
And I almost felt like I'm just sitting there like, she's basically torching her entire house with all of her belongings in it and everything in it. And I'm like, she just left. I'm like, Jesus, did you even go into that drawer that had the $3,000 he got paid for the interview like a week ago?
But maybe
2
this
days
is,
ago?
but we were talking about that.
You just give it up. You just did everything.
But we
I'm
were
like,
talking
oh,
about how
man.
how messed up she was. Like to her, those personal possessions don't mean anything. I think that's for one,
Yeah.
and two, that house probably just kept reminding her of
At the end of the
her,
day,
where her thoughts were dwelling. And I'm
at
thinking
the end of the
maybe-
day, she knew that that house was disposable
yes,
because her end game was to blow it all up.
right, and then they end up succeeding that. And then the final shot is basically they're driving away in this pickup truck, and the three girls or the three women are in the back of the truck, and all you see is the granddaughter. She's got the knife like on her lap, the
Yeah.
bloodied knife, or it's like next to her, but she's holding it.
And then I think they show her face or something like that.
And then they pan up, and it's like, all right, so what does all that mean?
Yeah, and that to me is just like, the standard, like, twist ending scenario. But to me, it was like, I don't know, I almost feel like it was lazy. Because if they never do another sequel.
Well,
it's
they
like-
are.
Okay.
And so they're doing 2 other films. The next film is supposed to be called Halloween Kills.
To me, it's not the most effective shock ending that I've seen in
No.
these types of films.
And then of course you play the theme music and you go back and it goes throughout the house again that's burning down, and then you don't see Michael Myers, like you just hear the music. So obviously there's a way out of that panic room or that trap, and we're probably going to see that in the next film.
So one thing that I thought really kind of sucked is that the Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter, her husband, gets killed.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for him because, he married
He was a
this-
decent guy.
He was a decent guy,
Yeah.
and he married this girl knowing that she came from a crazy freaking family with all this history.
Yep.
And it's like, he said, you know what, I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to marry you, and we have a kid, and this is do about, and and he just gets
He gets taken out.
he gets taken out. And I'm just like, oh, that kind of sucked. Now, there were 2 things about the scene in the house at the end that I found a little, I don't know, I just found it weird. It's like, one, okay, so Jamie Lee Curtis turns off all the lights in every room and decides to go around with a gun and a flashlight. And I'm like, you're just giving Michael Myers the ability to hide in the dark somewhere. Like, if you had I would want all the lights on. Because Michael Myers doesn't go around with a gun. Like, Michael Myers uses bludgeoning instruments. He uses hammers, he uses knives. He's not walking around with a flamethrower. He's not walking around with a pistol. He's not walking around with firearms. You got the firearms. Like, I want to be able to see him 20 feet away because I'm going to put a fucking bullet in his head. Whereas he's going to be sitting there with a knife. He ain't a ninja. He ain't going to be deflected. So I'm like, you're turning off all the lights. That's not to your tactical advantage. And now you're trying to look in every corner with a flashlight.
But the one thing is, like, it is her
gotta-
house. She knows every inch of it. So, like, if you're going to have an advantage with the lights, if you're turning the lights out, you do have an advantage over that person because you know the layout of the house. Not only that, she had the door.
Right, she was, yeah.
shut.
But
she was directing him particularly to a certain area. To go.
I think she was just clearing the house and saying, okay, this room is clear.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he gets her in the
He
dark.
does.
So it didn't work.
Right.
The other thing I found, and this was one of those scenes where it was like trying to reminisce the 1978 film, is that she
Coming out of the
finds
shadow.
no, she finds the dead body of the husband
Yeah.
in the house, and it's like, okay, so.
With a sheet, right? Oh no, they did the sheet with the
It was
babysitter.
like in a closet, like he was crunched up in a closet somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like it was a little in the original '78 film when Jamie Lee Curtis finds all the dead bodies. It was a little unbelievable, like that he would set them up that way, because it's like,
Was he just toying with her now?
like how can you predict that she would even do the sequence of events that would cause these bodies to unfold? But it worked. It was like good shock value, and nobody ever did that before, so I thought it was okay. But like so it was like, so he killed the father outside, and then he got into the run-in with Jamie Lee Curtis at the door, like she had the, he would put his hands through the door and this
Yeah,
and that, and then she got away and went down into the basement.
Right.
So Michael Myers then said, before I break into the house, I'm going to go back and get the guy I killed, bring him into the house, and hide him somewhere. And I'm like, at this point, like in the original movie, he killed everybody in the house. He could do whatever he wanted.
Right.
In this movie, he's in an active conflict with Jamie Lee Curtis. I just found it hard to believe that he would go back out, get the body, and bring it in and hide it somewhere for a shock later. I'm like, I just found that hard. And the reason why they did that is because somebody making the creative decision says, wouldn't that be cool if, like, Jamie Lee Curtis finds another body just like she did the
Well, you get the iconic scene too from the first film where she's kind of like, she tells the kids to run, go next door, and she's kind of actually no, it was before that. So she, in the '78 film, she's kind of like standing at a doorway and it's dark behind her, and then all of a sudden you see Michael Myers come over.
Like it's almost like a light shines on his
his face mask.
His face mask appears
and emerges. Right.
Yeah.
And this time it's the reverse. He's looking for her and he can't find her, and then she comes out of the dark.
Right.
And wails on.
Right.
So I thought that was like, again, like just a nice like twist of the original. And to me, like some of those things paid off. Yes, there's nostalgia to that, and you're gonna be like, oh, I remember that scene. But the fact that they didn't repeat the scene the exact same way, and they made it different.
And at the end of the day, those types of nostalgic things work better when the overall movie surrounding it is better.
Yes.
Because when the overall movie surrounding it is not as good, it makes it look like they're just trying to salvage the film with these things that people just go, and it's like, and they forget about everything.
Just pure
else.
nostalgia.
And it's just like, you know what? In a better movie, it would just work better.
I mean, overall, I really do. I enjoy the film. I am looking forward to seeing what they do with the next two, so that you're going to have a complete story at the end. You should, anyway. This is definitely, I think, out of all of the Halloween films, I do think it's one of the better ones. Overall, I'm not going to put it up there with. I'm not putting it up there with the first one.
You know what? It might be better, but
you're going back to
there's
that.
Not much comparison because I think, to me, Halloween 2 all the way through to everything, like you're talking 1.5, 2-star movies at best. Whereas I think the first Halloween is at least a 3.5-star movie. At least it's a really good film.
Halloween 4 and 5 aren't bad. Like those are like
I think I give this movie 2.5 stars at best. And I'm leaning towards 2 because I feel like I don't know. I feel like it could.
What movie did you?
Better movie.
What movie did you enjoy better, H2O or this one?
That's a tough one because I've only seen H2O like once or twice, and it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember being overly excited about it. I think I may have enjoyed this movie a little bit better.
Yeah, no,
but fractions.
I definitely agree with that. I enjoy this movie a little bit more than H2O, but I still like that film too. But I mean, listen, out of all the films that have been out there, like this sequel, because this is a direct sequel to the 1978 film.
Yeah,
this is probably might be the second best sequel out of the whole series when you look at all of them.
Yeah, it might be.
I mean, and I know you're gonna, for most people they're like, well, it's not a lot of competition because, like you said, those other films are like 1.5 star films.
Some of them really suck.
And some of them were awful. So there's not a huge bar to go up against.
Right.
But if they can take what they did in this film and improve upon a few things, I think the next two films could be something special.
Yeah, I just feel that, like, in this type of scenario, I think they feel they don't have to go too far because they already know it's going to make money, and I don't think they're putting as much creative effort because they know they don't need to sell it. it sells itself.
The title alone,
Yeah,
Halloween's going to sell itself.
it sells itself, and
Yeah.
I don't know that they're actually trying to break ground in the horror industry. I think they're just trying to, cash in on an easy sell, and
But
put
hopefully
put some stuff in there, but like
But hopefully they come up with a
you're
good
not doing
story.
anything groundbreaking, not doing anything legendary, and I don't even think that they're striving to make a great movie. They're just striving to make something that's watchable and
I don't think they
passable.
need. I don't need something groundbreaking or anything like that. I give me a good story. Give me something that
No,
is in
well,
line
yeah,
with-
exactly. I don't expect it
Give me-
to start a new wave in horror, but
Right.
I expect it to be, I'm hoping it to be a good movie, and I feel like you're more likely to get a better horror movie out of somebody trying to prove themselves, as opposed to just jumping on an idea, which is literally like, okay, let's make a Halloween movie 40 years later. Okay, good, and it just
Yeah.
color by numbers because it's a proven success. One of the things I found interesting in the beginning of the film, just oddly enough, is when the two bloggers go to visit him at the hospital. Like they stand behind him, whereas like, you could go anywhere you want. Like you can, like they talk to him from behind.
Right.
And like I don't know. I would have went in front of him. I don't know. I mean, it played for an interesting scene, but I'm just like, like if you go into
Well, it played for good thing because you're not seeing his face.
Yeah,
Like
but
that,
I'm just
you're
like
going away from all
like
that.
they can go anywhere they want. Like why wouldn't they try to see him, go in front of him? I didn't know, but and just to talk, just a little, just something I wanted to mention. One of my favorite scenes from the original '78 film, which I think is one of the scariest scenes in the movie, is when after Laurie Strode has been, kind of knifed in her back, and she falls down the stairs, and she's at the bottom of the stairs in the house, and Michael Myers is just standing at the top of the stairs, and he starts to come down, and when they show it, it's like very shadowed,
Yeah.
and it's just like, it's just scenes like that are just like. It's just Michael Myers going down the stairs.
Well, very
but you
slow.
could film Michael Myers going down the stairs, or you could do what John Carpenter did and film it the way he filmed it, and it is spectacular.
It's again, it's slow but methodical.
Yeah.
And I don't think you got a lot of that with this film. I think there were
Every scene is
instances.
carefully choreographed.
Right.
That's what it is. Every single thing that happens is very carefully choreographed.
And I think you saw parts of that in the 2018 film, but it wasn't anything like the 78.
And I like in the '78 film that the characters are not just your typical stereotypical cardboard characters that are just disposable, which is what happens in a lot of other films. Like you really kind of get into the mindset of these characters and
Yeah.
their lives and their interactions, because there's enough screen time with just them interacting. It's not
Right.
all about the bad guy. It's about these guys
Yep.
and the character, and then Michael Myers like wrecking them. So you bond. You actually bond with these characters, and that's really a lot what they did in Black Christmas is you actually, even more so in Black Christmas, you really got much more into the heads of these characters and their personalities and what they were
Right.
doing, and there was so much more character development, and so many films after that, there's no character development at all. It's just you have the jock and you have the beauty queen and you have the prissy and you have the stucker, and it's just
Yeah.
cardboard stereotypes, and every single one of them is the same type of character in every movie, just played by a different actor that you never heard of half the time.
Well, that's the formula that's been set up.
Yeah. So you said there's going to be 2 sequels coming?
2.
That they're lined up, and they're called what? Halloween?
Halloween Kills, I believe, is the next film. And again, that was supposed to come out this year.
And
but
this
with
is a
COVID,
direct sequel to
to this film.
this film.
Yep. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it and everything. All same character, returning characters. Yep.
And so is
And the last one is I don't know if it's Halloween Ends or something. I forget what the next film is after that. But
so in a
there's no film.
non-COVID world, when were those movies supposed to come out?
That was supposed to come out in October of this year.
October of this year was supposed to be
Yeah.
Halloween Kills,
Halloween
and then
Kills.
Halloween Ends is supposed to be whatever. Like I guess.
I don't know if they filmed them back to back. I don't know if it was supposed to be 2021 or 2022. But now Halloween Kills got pushed back So
Okay.
I'm assuming
Well,
the
I
other one
almost
got
kind of
pushed back
hope
too.
that. So wait, what year did this last Halloween come out? How many years ago?
2018 because it was
So
the 40 year
2 years
anniversary.
ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. So I almost hope that these two movies, if and when they come out, I almost hope that it should put an end to the current chronology.
Yeah.
Someday down the line, because film is actually a young medium in terms of art forms and stuff. You know, in theory, film should be around for hundreds, if not thousands, of years.
Hopefully.
So, like 100 years from now, there could be a whole new Halloween franchise because people said, because no one's going to remember anything. They're just going to say, you know what? You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, like I think for me, my lifetime, I don't know that I want to see any more new Halloween films after they finish off whatever they're planning on doing now. Like,
Well, if you
what would
listen-
be the
if
point?
well, exactly. Like, stop. As much as I love the Michael Myers series, as a whole, and him as a villain,
Move on
how
and go do
complicated
something
it is,
else.
you can give me a Halloween series, a la Season of the Witch. Not exactly that film, but like you could do what was originally intended and start giving me a different villain
Yeah.
per story.
And not that I've never seen this show, but that sounds like American Horror Story.
Well, that's each season is
Well,
a
each
different.
season of American Horror Story
Yeah.
is a whole different.
But, like,
I kind of like that idea, and at some point I'm gonna have to binge watch all
Well,
of
to
them.
me, I think that to me would be interesting. Take the same cast and re-give them different roles in each film, so where they're all playing something different each time, and it would kind of throw you off. Like if the killer's this one guy in the one movie, the next movie it's going to be this girl instead. It's going to be the villain. So you could change it up, but you're having the same core characters and they're playing different people. Like that to me could be very interesting as a film franchise if they did something like that. But who knows? I think we got to finish up these next two Halloween films and see where they take Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis and those characters.
I'm happy with doing a comparison because, like I said, we never did a comparison type scenario before.
And we've talked about it, so I'm glad we got this one done.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to next year, and I want to see that they've already got some screenshots. They've put like a small teaser out, which wasn't, I don't think, anything big, but they put something on. I'm assuming by
Oh, you're gonna have to show me that when we get out.
well, yeah, I'm assuming
'Cause I
by
haven't seen that.
I'm assuming by Christmas time they'll probably end up maybe having an actual like teaser trailer. But there's definitely been screenshots.
Because we haven't been to the movies at all since COVID hit.
The
And
movie
I
theaters
think-
just opened up
I
in
think
New York.
movie theaters just opened up, and
But I who knows?
I can tell you right now, I almost have a feeling like they're going to be closing down again soon.
They might. So,
You know? So
I mean, as
I'll
of
be
right now,
honest
I
with you,
think we're doing the
I
best.
think I'm staying away from the movie theaters.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I think we're doing the best thing that we can right now, just to stay safe and keep streaming stuff from home.
Yeah,
That's it. So until then, we're going to probably keep doing a lot of retro reviews because there's not a lot of new stuff being out.
Yeah.
So, guys, we hope you enjoyed it. We'll see what happens next time we do episode 41.
Ooh, I'm going to finish my beer.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. All right. We hope you guys had a safe Halloween. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Which is next week. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yep.
Have a great time. with
Have
the
a good
movies.
one, guys.